Mr. President, I rise today to speak about the Wyden, Coates, Begich Bipartisan Tax Fairness and Simplification Act. Mr. President, it's that time of the year again, tax time. Across our nation, small businesses and families are struggling to unravel the annual nightmare of paperwork required to file their taxes. Across our nation, small businesses and families are struggling. Mr. President, my wife and I are small business owners, so I especially understand how burdensome and expensive the tax code is, and filling out the process can be for folks this time of year. This process is costly and burdensome. The IRS estimates that Americans spend 6.1 billion hours each year filling out tax forms, and roughly $163 billion each year on tax compliance. Small businesses are the engine and the backbone of our still recovering economy. So we should allow them to spend more time doing what they do best, creating jobs, growing the economy, not filling out burdensome paperwork. This is why I've joined my colleagues from both sides of the aisle, Senators Wyden and Senator Coates, to introduce the Bipartisan Tax Fairness and Simplification Act. Tax reform has been a long priority of mine. I'm happy to be moving forward on this important piece of legislation today. In a nutshell, our legislation simplifies the tax code and alleviates many of the burdensome paperwork and costly requirements that are bogging down American families and businesses. Our legislation would allow most taxpayers to file their taxes using a straightforward and shortened one-page 1040 IRS form. When you look at this example here, this is exactly what it would look like. Also, individuals and families will be able to request that the IRS prepare a tax return for them to review, modify, and sign. The Wyden Coates Begich reduces the number of tax brackets for individuals from 6 to 3. 15%, 25%, 35%, and eliminates the alternative minimum tax, which forces millions of taxpayers to calculate their taxes twice and pay the higher amount. In order to make capital investments more cost-effective for small business owners, the Wyden Coates Begich bill will allow 95% of small businesses, those with gross receipts of up to $1 million, to expense all equipment and inventory costs in a single year. These changes may seem simple and common sense, but they make a world of difference to our middle-class families and small businesses. Let's talk specifically about the small businesses for a second. The people who are keeping our economy going, like my friend John Brower from Anchorage. John owns and operates Alaska Laser Printing in Anchorage. Mr. President, John works tirelessly, 365 days a year, and is proud of the business he built. When new technology is developing in the printing business, it's always bringing on needs for new equipment. This legislation will be able to have him and allow him to expense all that equipment costs. That would make, and truly would make, a world of difference for John and save him thousands and thousands of dollars in taxes. I'm here to speak for the John Browers and the other small businesses all across Alaska and across this country. My view is very simple. Let's quit giving tax breaks to multi-million-dollar corporations. Let's close the corporate loopholes and help out the small businesses like John Browers. Mr. President, right now we are facing a $14.3 trillion deficit. We are hours away from a potential government shutdown rather than continuing on a path toward long-term economic recovery. Our new bill actually promotes economic growth because it allows businesses to spend more time growing and less time worrying about the overly burdensome tax system, which we all know only enables tax avoidance. As all of us around here know, tax avoidance means outsourcing jobs overseas. Instead of our legislation, It is an incentives and enables companies to invest right here in America, rather than incentivizing them to invest overseas. The legislation also promotes responsible retirement savings and investment by expanding tax-free saving opportunities. The American Dream Account. Whether it is for a new home, education for your children, or health care, this account provides a unique opportunity to invest in the American dream. Families and individuals alike can make contributions to an account that functions much like the Retirement Savings Account, an RSA, to work towards purchasing their American dream. Mr. President, right now the U.S. corporate income tax rate is the second highest in the world. That puts American corporations at a competitive disadvantage globally. To resolve that, the Wyden, Coates, Begich legislation cuts the top corporate rate from 35% to 24%. That means American corporations will pay more competitive rate than corporations based in trading partner countries such as Canada, Germany, and France. To make the tax code fair and reduce opportunities for individuals and businesses to avoid paying their fair share of taxes, Wyden Coates Begich bill ends a number of specialized tax breaks that favor one business sector or some special interest that's been fortunate to be down here lobbying years past and getting their special deal, and make sure everyone is treated fairly, but ensures that we are competitive in the global economy that we now compete in. Our legislation protects and extends important tax deductions for families. The Wyden Coates Begich bill retains many of the most commonly claimed individual tax credits and deductions, including deductions for mortgage interest and charitable contributions, credits for children and earned income, and preferences for the armed forces, veterans, and elderly, and the disabled will be retained, as will those that help Americans pay for health care and higher education and save for retirement. The Wyden Coates Begich bill also permanently extends the enhancement of the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit and the dependent care credit. The legislation eliminates the current law phase-out of itemized deductions and personal exemptions, allowing all taxpayers to benefit fully from their deductions and exemptions. Finally, our legislation requires banks to identify all individuals who benefit from foreign accounts by name and nationality, and to withhold 30% of all passive income, such as interest and capital gains, sent to any individual who disguises his or her identity. Mr. President, tax reform is a bipartisan issue. Hands down, Republicans, Democrats, our president, the OMB director, and many others all across this country have called for it. So let's do it. Let's stop punching holes in the outdated system and make real tax reform happen. Tax reform is about creating jobs, growing the economy, and supporting our families and businesses for the future. Mr. President, I yield the floor.